Iran 200 Years of Conflict, Culture, and Change. Introduction. Iran, a nation with a history stretching back thousands of years, has undergone dramatic transformations over the last 2 centuries. From dynasties and revolutions to cultural renaissance and global tensions, Iran's journey is complex, fascinating, and deeply influential. Chapter 1. The Qajar Dynasty, 1794 to 1925. In the early 1800s, Iran was ruled by the Qajar Dynasty. This era was marked by foreign interference, especially from Britain and Russia, which competed for control over Persian territory and trade routes. Iran lost significant land during this time in wars with Russia and signed unequal treaties such as the Treaty of Gulistan, 1813, and the Treaty of Turkmenchay, 1828. These treaties ceded vast areas in the Caucasus to Russia. Internally, the Qajars struggled with tribal revolts, weak central control, and economic stagnation. Despite this, the era saw the beginnings of modern printing, intellectual movements, and the rise of reformist thought. Chapter 2. The Constitutional Revolution, 1905 to 1911. The Constitutional Revolution was driven by growing frustration with Qajar misrule, corruption, and foreign economic domination. The revolution led to the establishment of Iran's first parliament, Majlis, and a constitution that aimed to limit royal power. Clashes between conservative clerics, royalists, and reformists followed. Foreign powers, particularly Britain and Russia, intervened militarily, undermining the revolution. Although it faltered, it sowed the seeds for future political movements and introduced modern political discourse in Iran. Chapter 3. The Rise of the Pahlavi Dynasty, 1925 to 1979. In 1925, Reza Shah Pahlavi replaced the Qajars and pursued a campaign of secular modernization. He built infrastructure, introduced civil law, reformed education, and banned traditional clothing such as the hijab. During World War II, Britain and the Soviet Union invaded Iran, fearing Nazi influence. Reza Shah was forced to abdicate in favor of his son, Mohammad Reza Shah. In 1951, Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh nationalized Iran's oil industry. In response, the 1953 CIA and MI6-backed coup reinstated the Shah and removed Mossadegh. This ushered in a period of rapid industrialization and westernization, but also growing authoritarianism, leading to public discontent. Chapter 4. The 1979 Islamic Revolution. By the 1970s, protests against the Shah intensified due to political repression, economic inequality, and cultural alienation. In 1979, a coalition of Islamists, leftists, and intellectuals overthrew the monarchy. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini emerged as the leader of the Islamic Republic. A theocratic constitution was adopted, combining religious rule with republican institutions. The U.S. Embassy hostage crisis in November 1979 marked the beginning of prolonged hostility between Iran and the West. Chapter 5. Iran-Iraq War, 1980 to 1988. In 1980, Iraq, under Saddam Hussein, invaded Iran. The war lasted 8 years and caused over 1 million casualties. It included the use of chemical weapons, trench warfare, and attacks on civilian areas. The war devastated Iran's economy and infrastructure but also consolidated the Islamic Republic's power and entrenched its anti-Western posture. The conflict ended in a stalemate, with a UN-brokered ceasefire in 1988. Chapter 6. Reform, Conservatism, and Nuclear Tensions 1990s, 2010s. After the war, Iran focused on reconstruction. In the late 1990s, reformist President Mohammad Khatami promoted civil society, dialogue with the West, and social freedoms. However, hardliners in the judiciary and military limited these reforms. Iran's nuclear program advanced during the 2000s, prompting international concerns. The UN and US imposed sanctions. The disputed 2009 presidential elections sparked the Green Movement, with massive protests demanding reform. The government responded with a violent crackdown. Chapter 7. The Modern Era, 20 TNS, 2020s. In 2015, Iran agreed to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, limiting its nuclear program in exchange for sanction relief. However, in 2018, the U.S. withdrew from the deal, reinstating sanctions. Iran's economy faced inflation, currency collapse, and unemployment. Nationwide protests erupted in 2017, 2019, and again in 2022 after the death of Mahsa Amini in police custody, symbolizing the struggle for women's rights and civil liberties. Iran continues to assert influence across the Middle East through alliances with groups in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. Iran's economy is heavily reliant on hydrocarbons, oil, and natural gas account for a significant portion of exports and government revenue. Sanctions have restricted banking, trade, and technology access. Iran has invested in agriculture, mining, and pharmaceuticals to diversify. Informal and regional trade with neighbors like Iraq, Turkey, and China help offset some losses. Corruption, mismanagement, and youth unemployment are chronic challenges. Culture and society. Despite censorship, Iranian culture flourishes. Persian literature, art, and music are world-renowned. Filmmakers like Abbas Kiarostami and Esker Farhadi have gained global acclaim. Modern Iranian society is young, urban, and increasingly digital. Social media is widespread, even under restrictions. Gender segregation and morality policing are common, but women continue to break barriers in education, business, and activism. Religion in Iran. Iran is officially a Shia Islamic Republic. The supreme leader is the highest authority, combining religious and political power. Clerical institutions shape law, education, and media. Religious minorities include Sunni Muslims, Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, and Baha'is. While recognized minorities have some rights, others face persecution and limited freedoms. Conclusion. Iran's story is one of endurance, revolution, and reinvention. Despite challenges, the Iranian people continue to shape their nation's destiny, balancing tradition and change, faith and modernity. As the region evolves, Iran remains a pivotal player in the global narrative. Israel and Iran in direct conflict. U.S. nuclear deal talks stalled. As of June 2025, Israel and Iran are engaged in direct military strikes. The long-running shadow war has escalated to open conflict, with reports of Israeli airstrikes on Iranian targets, including nuclear facilities, and Iranian missile attacks on Israel. This has indefinitely halted any prospect of reviving the 2015 U.S.-Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA, from which the U.S. withdrew in 2018. Tensions in the region are at a critical high. International calls for de-escalation and a return to diplomacy offer a glimmer of hope for a peaceful resolution. If you got any value from this video, the easiest way to show your support is by tapping that like button. If you love core unraveling of topics, you're one of us. Join the community by hitting subscribe and let me know in the comments what we should explore next.